Jordan Peele does it again.
Stay tuned for your Us movie review.
Let's talk about it, y'all. Middle America. Well, we just got back from watching, spoilers. Spoilers all over the place, right at the beginning.
Yeah, right out the gate.
Sorry, not sorry. Okay, so we just got back from our second viewing of Us. And the reason we went to watch it the second time
I feel like if you say this is a movie review, that you shouldn't have to say this are going to be spoilers. Because if it's a review, of course there's going to be spoilers.
Well, most movie reviews don't have spoilers in them.
What?
They don't. But the reason that everybody's been saying that when they do these reviews is because it's really impossible to talk about it.
Without spoiling.
Okay,
without
go
ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is going to be a very in-depth movie review. It's going to be the best one you've ever seen on Us, and we're going to go super in-depth. So I'm gonna give like a 2-minute synopsis of the entire movie, okay? Mm-hmm. And then we're gonna like really dig into the minutiae because it's an insanely very, very good movie. Okay, so Us starts off with basically a statement about underground railroads and tunnels and all that in America. And then you see this family, this black family, driving to a beach, a fair, and it turns out that there's a little girl and a mom and a dad. And the little girl we find out is Adelaide, that's her name. And it turns out that it's her birthday. And so you're just following them around on the beach in the carnival type atmosphere. And the dad is, doing the little throw thingy that you do when you win a prize.
The darts, you throw it at the balloon or something?
Yeah, but he had a baseball. He was talking about like making it to the pros or something like that.
Okay.
And so he wins.
I missed the beginning of the movie twice.
He wins the prize, and so then the carnival guy goes, "Which one do you want?" She says, "Number 11." The number 11 is going to feature heavily in this movie.
Yeah.
So she says number 11, and it turns out to be a Thriller shirt from Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson is also a major character in this movie, actually. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of Michael Jackson symbology in the movie. Now, just so you know, this is not a Get Out movie review. Get it? Get Out? Because I'm black and she's white. Rolls?
Look out!
Okay, back to your regular schedule program. So she gets the Michael Jackson shirt, and the mom has to go to the bathroom. And so she's about to leave the daughter with the dad.
Okay.
And the mom says to the daughter, "Hey, do you want to go with me?" She goes, "Nah, I'm good. I don't need to go to the bathroom." And then So the mom kind of doesn't look like she trusts the dad very much. And the dad's like, I got her. And so the mom says, "Watch our daughter."
Okay.
And then off she goes. So then the dad starts playing whack-a-mole. Now the dad is about 6'3", very muscular build, very built guy, very strong, very capable. And there he is hitting whack-a-mole. As soon as the wife leaves, he turns his back on his daughter and the daughter starts wandering off. Now, just FYI, the incompetent black father, the worthless black father is
throughout this film.
Front and center in the film for a very, very specific reason. He's trying to say something. So he's hitting whack-a-mole like a child, and then his actual child is walking off, wandering around the fair. And she's wandering around the beach, and then she's got her little red apple and her Michael Jackson Thriller
that's
shirt.
That's the part I came in on.
And she finds basically this house of mirrors, and it's called Shaman's House of Mirrors, and it's got this Native American fella, and it basically says, "Go in to see yourself," or something like that. Is that what it said? Do you remember what it said? I didn't write it down.
Something about finding yourself.
Find yourself or something like that.
Yeah.
And so she goes into this house of mirrors, and she starts whistling the Itsy Bitsy Spider.
Right when she gets in there, it starts pouring. And
right.
I don't know if there's anything significant about that, but if anybody has any thoughts, I would love to know them.
Put it down in the comments.
Yeah.
So she goes in, and she looks in, and sure enough, she sees herself in the mirror, but not face to face. It's face to back. So
she starts whistling the Itsy Bitsy Spider?
Yeah.
That is about when the rain comes down and it washes the spider out.
Right. Out came the rain and washed the spider out. Very good. Good job. Good job. Which is pretty interesting foreshadow, right?
Yeah.
And so when she looks into the mirror, she's not seeing herself face to face. She's seeing the back of the head of a girl that looks exactly like her.
Right.
The girl turns around, and then you see the two of them looking at each other, and it's freaky. And then
it's spooky.
It goes to modern day. But before it goes to modern day, there's this rabbit. There's a big focus on a rabbit with the rabbit ears and things like that. The rabbit features all throughout the movie. Mm-hmm. There are subliminals about the rabbit. There are also explicit things about the rabbit, and we'll talk about the rabbit in a second. Jordan Peele says that rabbits kind of scare him.
Yeah.
Like they're terrifying.
Because of scissor-like ears?
Scissor-like ears are terrifying to him.
I thought that was interesting because I'm like, I've never heard of anybody say that about a bunny.
Well, the way that he portrayed the bunny, especially like after, she discovers her double, was kind of freaky. Mm-hmm. So then you're introduced to the Modern Family, 2019, because this happened in 1986. This happened, with the girl version of Adelaide. It's in 1986, and there was the whole Hands Across America thing.
I did see when she was walking toward that house of mirrors.
Yeah.
That she had to walk past that man that was holding the sign.
Yes, that's right. I forgot about
Jeremiah
that. There's a sign that says Jeremiah 11:11, which features pretty heavily in the movie. Jeremiah 11:11 says the following: Therefore, this is what the Lord says: I am about to bring upon them a disaster that they cannot escape. They will cry out to me, but I will not listen to them. And what's interesting about Jeremiah 11 is a lot of people have quoted the verse, but not a lot of people have quoted the surrounding context. The surrounding context is about God telling the Israelites to listen to him. And he's angry at them because he took them out of Egypt, out of the house of slavery, and they won't listen to him. So he frees them from slavery, and then they go off and do whatever they want, create false gods and things like that. And God says, okay, fine. Because of that, there's going to be a serious problem that's going to befall you, and I'm not going to listen to you when you cry out. So he says, I brought them out of the land of Egypt. This is verse 4. Out of the iron furnace, saying, obey me and do everything I commanded you, and you'll be my people. I will be your God. This was in order to establish the oath I swore to your forefathers to give them a land flowing with milk and honey as it is to this day. And then it says, verse 7, from that time I brought your fathers out of the land of Egypt until today. I strongly warned them time and again, saying, obey my voice. Yet they would not obey or incline their ears, but each one followed the stubbornness of his own evil heart. So I brought on them all the curses of this covenant I commanded them to follow, but they did not keep. And look at verse 9. There is a conspiracy among the men of Judah and the residents of Jerusalem. They have returned to the sins of their fathers, who refused to obey my words. They have followed other gods to serve them. The house of Israel and the house of Judah have broken the covenant I made with their fathers. Then it talks about, though you cry out to me, I'm going to bring a disaster on you that you cannot escape. And even though you cry out to me, I will not listen to you.
Jeez.
So that's the context of Jeremiah 11:11. It's about a people who've been freed from slavery, who then turn their back on God and then face God's judgment because of it, and not being able to be heard.
Oh.
Which exactly, voicelessness is one of the main themes in this movie. So, and we'll explicate that soon. So we flash to the modern day. It's 2019, and we are introduced to the Wilson family. And the little girl has grown up. She had a traumatic... You see in flashbacks that after the incident at the fair, it turns out that she's no longer speaking.
Right.
And so they take her to a therapist, and you can hear both parents. And the mom is saying, I want my daughter back, and she can't speak.
Yeah.
And so the therapist says, well, encourage her in the arts, encourage her to dance, encourage her to sing, encourage her to write, anything she can do to tell her story, because the girl is mute right now. She can't speak because she's presumably so terrified about what happened to her that she goes mute. So that's a flashback that happens.
I think they mentioned PTSD or something like that.
Yeah. And
the father's like, what?
Father says, she's not been in any war or anything. What do you mean PTSD? And so it then flashes back to the modern day. There's Adelaide. So Adelaide is played by Lupita, and her husband's name is Gabriel. And Gabriel actually was basically the Gorilla King in Black Panther. So In Black Panther, the role that this guy played was very strong, hyper alpha male, testosterone coming out of his eyeballs type of very, very proactive, taking initiative, alpha male guy. In this movie, he's very, very different.
Yeah.
What's very important about him is that throughout the movie, he's wearing a sweater from Howard University, which is a historically black college, which is interesting because a couple of alumni are Chadwick Boseman, who plays T'Challa on Black Panther.
Okay.
Thurgood Marshall, Kamala Harris, the current one of the current Democratic nominees for President of the United States, and Taraji P. Henson, which of course is the Jussie Smollett's mother on Empire.
Yep.
And then of course Sean P. Diddy Combs. So he's rocking this Howard University sweater throughout the entire movie, and that is extremely significant, and I'll explain to you why. Okay. So that's Gabe, big, strong, 6'4", probably 250-pound black mountain of a man.
Yeah.
Extremely powerful dude. Then we're introduced to Zora. Zora's name actually means dawn. It's a Slavic word. It means dawn, like
That's
light.
pretty.
The dawn.
I like it.
Zora is super athletic, has an attitude, kind of 14, 15 years old. Not a terrible attitude, but regular teenager, very, very smart. And then we're introduced to Jason, which, by the way, the name Jason means healer, and that will be very significant as the movie goes on.
Oh, really? I don't know anything about that.
We meet Jason, and Jason is interesting because he's kind of awkward. He has this mask. What did you think that mask was?
It looked like a demonic gorilla or something.
Looked like a gorilla, maybe a dog, a Chewbacca type.
Oh, yeah.
Mask.
Yeah.
And he was initially wearing a Jaws shirt. You know, Jaws, the predator shark. So then we're introduced to the youngest. His name is Jason, and he's kind of awkward around the dinner table. What's interesting is everybody's eating like Popeyes or takeout or something, but Lupita's character, Adelaide, is eating strawberries and water. And then the dad, Gabe, says, let's go to the beach. So they've got this beach house in was it California?
I don't know
Santa
where they
Cruz.
were.
I'm assuming Santa Cruz would be California. So they've got this beach house, and so now he wants to go to the beach. Well, it turns out it's the exact same beach that she had the incident at, so she doesn't want to go.
Right.
But he sweet talks her and he convinces her to go. So
She says, we have to leave before dark.
Correct. And we know why, because of what happened. So then they're all in the car. It's a very, very interesting scene, and the song I Got 5 on It comes on, which this song comes on in very significant moments throughout the movie. At least 3 moments in the movie that I can remember this song is playing. It's very, very interesting. And so they start talking, and the daughter, Zora, says something sarcastic to the boy, Jason. And he says, kiss my anus.
Right.
Again, very awkward.
Yeah.
So the dad, everybody's like, what is going on?
Yeah.
He's like, he's like, I would actually have rather you swore than do that, which is, I agree. And so he goes, it's not a cuss word. Like, what's wrong?
Yeah.
And of course, Lupita looks back at him and like, what are you doing? How could you do that? And so then the dad goes, well, let's start playing some music. And then I've Got 5 on It comes on throughout the car, and so they're jamming to it, and it's a song about drugs. I Got 5 on It is basically about pitching in, paying your fair share so that everybody can enjoy the drugs. That's what the song's about.
Oh, okay.
So I Got 5 on It is, hey, pay your fair share. That's the point. So they're jamming to the song, and then all of a sudden, Lupita turns around and starts snapping her fingers.
Yeah.
And trying to help the Jason kid, but they're both off.
Both of them are off.
Both of them are off rhythm, which is very strange for black people because black people are very rhythmically inclined. So they're driving to the beach, and then they get introduced to the white family.
Jason character he has something on his finger, and he said that it was a trick he did last year.
Right.
And then he went to show it to them, and he doesn't know how to do it.
The lighter, it won't work.
Yeah.
Which has created a theory about Jason, but which I actually believed, but then throughout the movie, I figured something else out, and so I no longer believe it.
Oh.
We'll talk about it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so yes, the boy Jason is constantly lighting this lighter, but it can never light up, and he said he discovered it last year. Mm-hmm. So anyway, they're on their way to the beach where we meet this white family that Gabe is friends with. Mm-hmm. And so Lupita sits down next to the wife, and they have two daughters who are basically twins, right? They
are twins, yeah.
So they've got twins, and so they're trying to talk to Zora, but Zora's kind of to herself, mm-hmm. and they're basically making fun of Jason because while all the other kids are making sandcastles, Jason is making a tunnel.
Right.
And then Jason gets up and he says he's got to go to the bathroom, and the twins at the same time say to him, "Why don't you just go in the water?" Mm-hmm. And they said
Is that significant?
At the same time. Well, it's significant in the sense that most kids know to do that, but it's apparent that this kid is different. Like there's something different about him. That's the point. Has he never been to a beach before, or what's going on? Well, Zora says about her brother, he just has a very hard time paying attention. Mm-hmm. Then it cuts to Lupita's character, and Lupita's character is talking, and then the white lady says to her, "Hello, are you here?" And she said, "Well, I just find it hard to talk sometimes."
Yes.
And so, on the one hand, you've got Jason, and they're saying he's weird, but he's weird because he has a hard time paying attention. And then on the other hand, you've got Lupita, and she is having a hard time articulating and speaking. Mm-hmm. Now, what's interesting is, if you know anything about Umar Johnson, his whole claim to fame was about black boys in the education system and about ADHD, because mm-hmm. you're all these little black boys are being diagnosed, white boys too, but black boys are being diagnosed with ADHD.
Yeah. And
what happens is then they get hopped up on these medications, or they get sent to special ed, and then they get trapped, and it screws with them in the educational system. Mm-hmm. So Umar Johnson has kind of made all of his money on that because he was a school, psychologist or whatever, and so he was helping these women get these kids out of special eds, get them off of these pills, etc. So I thought it was pretty significant, and I'm pretty sure Umar Johnson is going to do a review of this movie, and I'm almost certain, I almost guarantee you that he's going to say that Jordan Peele based the Jason character off of what he said about, black boys in the school system because he's got ADHD.
Oh, okay.
Of course, ADHD has been called absent dad at home disorder. It's like that's the problem most of the time with black boys is that, their dad isn't there. That's why. And so they're talking, and there's an interesting conversation between the white woman and Adelaide, Lupita's character. But as Gabe is saying what's up to his white friend, the guy's shirt says fragile. Which I haven't heard any commentators comment on it, but basically that's pointing out, the concept of white fragility, which is this idea that, white folk are not, white folk have a hard time being confronted with certain issues, especially when race comes up. So anytime a racial issue comes up, immediately there's
everybody's on their defense is up. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, again, this is a concept. I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with it. I mean, one example of what people would call white fragility would be what happened with the Gillette commercial.
Like the Gillette commercial,
right? Because most of the people, 90% of the people complaining about the Gillette commercial were white men.
I see it all the time. Anytime I try to engage people on the race issue,
yeah,
a lot of times it's a very difficult conversation. People have their defenses up right away. They don't want to hear the facts. It doesn't matter that there's video evidence. None of it.
Right. So, that's kind of the idea of white. It's kind of like out there and obvious. It's the ability to tolerate racial stress, leading to what I refer to as white fragility. White fragility is a state in which even a minimum amount of, to your point, Sori, was there it is right there. White fragility is a state in which even a minimum amount of racial stress becomes intolerable, triggering a range of defensive moves. These moves include the outward display of emotions such as anger, fear, guilt, and behaviors such as argumentation, silence, and leaving the stress-inducing situation. These behaviors in turn function to reinstate the white racial equilibrium. So if you want to read that, that's by Robin DiAngelo. We'll link it in there. But so there's this concept of white fragility, which is usually attributed to white males. Anytime race comes, oh, here we go, da 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 da, or I'm so sick of talking about this, and of course the response is, well, we're sick of getting killed.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I feel your pain. So that's the idea. I'm not saying whether or not white fragility is a real thing or a real whatever. I'm just saying that the white guy is rocking this shirt that says fragile on it, and he's a white guy. Obviously, it's a Jordan Peele sort of like dig at the concept of white fragility. So there they are on the beach, they're talking, and there's this really interesting conversation between the white women. I'm amazed that Jordan Peele is so popular and he hasn't been killed, because he's got some pretty cynical commentary about white people. The Get Out movie was not very pro-Anglo, and this movie is no different. This movie, in my opinion, is probably worse on white people than Get Out was. But
Really?
yeah, I think so. Because I mean, with Get Out, there was this secret society of super rich people. Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily like a generalized way to talk about white people. I mean, this was a secret cult. Whereas in this movie, these people are kind of like everyday upper middle class white people, and so he's got the white fragility thing goes on. And of course, the other conversation between Lupita and the white lady, where she talks about she got plastic surgery done. Mm-hmm. And then she looks at Lupita and says, "You're never going to need it, whore." Remember that part?
Yeah.
And so the point...
I remember the first time we saw it, I said, "What did she say?" And you said, she said poor, because they're poorer than them. I was like, I thought I heard whore.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that the first time I saw it.
Yeah.
In the, so, anyway... So that was a very interesting scene because, you know, it's you know, black folks and aging and black women and aging, and you've got, you know, the queen from Black Panther, she's like 65 right. And she looks like she's 28. Yeah. And so, no, you know, it's just naturally, you know, able to age well and age better than white folks. So there was that whole jealousy that she had. And so instead of saying you're so beautiful or whatever, she has to use this derogatory term because she can't reconcile the fact that she's not able to maintain her youth and natural beauty naturally the way that Lupita did. So she has to call her a whore. So Lupita...
The type of people I'd want to hang around.
Well... But if you're black, you've had conversations like this. All black folks have had conversations like this with white folks, where it's kind of like they're complimenting you and insulting you simultaneously. It's like the whole, "Oh, you're so smart for a black guy." Man. Or I've had white folks, "Oh, you're not like them." Who's them? So then Lupita realizes that her son is not around, and of course she had this experience when she was a little kid. So Lupita starts panicking, is running around, and of course Gabe is kind of like, it's not that big of a deal. And so she goes and she runs, she's panicking, looking for her son. And then he gets out of the bathroom.
I wonder if there's any significance to, remember how she says, she talks about that, basically that like, I don't remember. It wasn't like the stars lining up or something happened that brought them both to the same place.
Everything was too symmetrical, yeah. So,
right. And so the guy throws the frisbee and it lands right on that dot.
Right.
And then all of a sudden she can't find her son. So she might be thinking, whoa, where is he in that?
Lined up. It was significant to her and I couldn't really figure it out. But this guy randomly threw a frisbee and it landed on a circle, but it landed perfectly dead center in the circle.
Yeah.
And later on, she talks about, you know how everything lines, you know, sometimes when things line up, we'll talk about that in a second. And of course, 11:11 is a perfect mirror image of each other.
Yeah.
Right? So we're going to talk about that in a second. So she's panicked looking around for him, and you see Jason, and throughout the movie, 90% of the movie, he's got this mask, and sometimes he pulls it up, sometimes he pulls it down. And he sees this man, and he's got his hands out, and he goes to him, and you see there's just blood coming down from his fingers.
Off his right hand.
Yeah. And you can kind of see he's got this jacket, but under the jacket, he's got this, like, these red pants. You see his red pants. And
they're short, kind of high water-ish.
Yeah. And in that moment, Lupita finds, or Adelaide finds Jason and says, "Where were you?" He says, "I'm just going to the bathroom." She says, "Stay with me, da-da-da." And it's at that point, they're going home. So they go home, and it's nighttime. She puts the daughter to bed. And there's another kind of interesting moment between Adelaide and Jason, where she says to him, "Mask off," because he's going to bed. Mask off, and of course there's a song called "Mask Off."
Oh,
pretty famous song. It's the one that your buddy Montana 300 he remixed.
Oh,
yeah. So "Mask Off." I just thought that was a good kind of nod to Future is the name of the guy that does the song.
Okay.
Future. But so it's she says "mask off," so he takes his mask off, he goes to bed. Well, she goes in, and so he before she leaves the room, he says, "Mom, look." He points at the clock, and sure enough, it's 11:11. The baseball game is on. And it's 11:11 at the bottom of the seventh inning. So we keep seeing.
I didn't catch that.
We keep hearing these 11s.
Yeah.
The 11s come out. And so she's becoming more and more disturbed. So then she decides she's going to tell her husband.
Well, she sees a picture that the kid drew of
the guy with the blood. She says.
Hand, and then, like, the kid's standing there. Like, it was, like, almost like a view behind the boy looking at the man.
Yeah.
And she says, Who is this? And he's like,
Yeah, and he doesn't even say it. He doesn't say. He just says, literally, just like that. So then she goes in, and she starts telling her husband, Gabe, "Hey, this is, I'm freaking out here. You know,
there's obviously something going on with her, and he's totally missing the point."
Well, he's trying to get it in. You
I think he said earlier. I think he said he was going to watch the game for a little bit, and then he was going to go to the magic room. Or something like that. Yeah. Totally missing that the woman was, like, not okay.
So he's in boxers, and then he's got his Howard University sweater on.
Right.
And so she has no interest whatsoever, and he's just completely clueless the entire. It was unbelievable. He was completely and totally clueless the entire time, and so then she starts saying. When everything lines up and she's, like a coincidence, she's like, everything's been lining up and it's freaking me out. She's like, I'm just afraid that this, and then she talks about, she was at the boardwalk, she saw a girl, the girl looked exactly like her, and of course Gabe is like, well, yeah, you're in a house of mirrors, of course. And she's trying to explain to him, no, it's not like that. It wasn't it wasn't a reflection. And then he says... He says something to the effect of, like, lighten up.
Well, he cracks a joke and tells her, he says, well, if she shows up, she's your size, and I could take you,
I could kick her ass.
I'll kick her ass, too.
Right.
And she just looks at her like...
She looks at him like, what the hell is wrong with you? And he's like, I'm just trying to lighten the mood. Well, as soon as he says lighten, the lights go off.
Boom.
Boom. And then in the doorway, you see Jason saying, there's a family outside. And I gotta tell you, as far as spooky moments in the movie...
That kid was spooky standing there.
He was spooky, but... So then Gabe goes outside, so she goes, I'm calling the cops. And he's like, don't call no police.
He's like, it's probably just the neighbors.
So then he goes out there, and sure enough, there's 4 people and a very, very big tall guy standing, and he goes, yo, what's up? He's like, yo, you guys good? And then there's no response. Nobody says anything. He's like, yo, you just get off my property then, since you want to be like that. If you're trying to scare people, it's not working. But you could tell that
he was scared.
he was shook.
Yeah.
Now remember, this guy's sick, big dude. I mean, here's a picture of him. This is a big dude, but he's scared to death. So he goes back in, and then he says, give me the baseball bat.
He tells the boy to get the baseball bat.
Jason goes, what
bat?
What bat? like he has no idea.
The girl runs
but
and
the
gets
girl
it
gets it in 2 seconds.
immediately.
I was watching him the second time because of all the theories that have been going on about him. He didn't look very scared. He didn't, especially like at the initial home invasion.
Yeah.
He didn't look scared. He was just, and like especially when he saw the little boy in the window, he didn't go ah. He just stood there and looked at him. So like there's a home invasion that's about to happen, and he doesn't look frightened at all, which is very, very strange. So anyway, he goes, give me the bat. So he gets the bat, and he's like, yo, I told you.
I thought I already done told y'all to get off my property.
Crazy.
Okay? So if y'all want to get crazy, we can get crazy.
So
Now the cops already on their way.
The other family is it's them. It's the doppelgangers of them.
Yeah.
So what happens is the woman basically clicks her tongue, basically goes, and
does something with her hands.
Immediately, and they're all in these red jumpsuits. Immediately, the two kids on the outside, they disappear from the scene. So now,
Husband starts walking.
Now and then the husband starts walking toward him.
He takes these big steps.
So he runs back in the house and he goes, okay, call the police. She had already called the police. She's like, they're gonna be here in 15 minutes.
Right.
And the guy goes, oh my God.
You know how some...
So he's scared to death. So then he locks the door. But the woman version of Lupita knows that there's a key under the rock, which is pretty freaking scary. So she starts turning the lock. Gabe goes to put his weight against the door, and it doesn't work. And so he takes the bat. Well, the guy, his doppelganger, snatches the bat and then smashes him on the leg with it.
Oh my
he
gosh.
goes down, and now these guys, which is probably one of the scariest moments in the movie, they all get into the house. So it's the doppelganger version of Lupita, whose name is Red, the doppelganger version of Gabe, whose name is Abraham, the doppelganger version of Zora, whose name is Umbre, and then the doppelganger version of Jason, whose name is Pluto. Now, what's interesting is Pluto wears a face mask. It's like a ski mask for pretty much the entire movie. So they all line up. So the Reds lined up and the family's lined up.
Yeah.
And so Red starts talking about how there was a girl
shadow.
and the girl had a shadow, and that when the girl was getting nice and warm heated food, the shadow was living underground and had to eat bloody rabbits, raw bloody rabbits.
Yeah.
And when the girl had nice Christmas
Soft,
presents,
squishy Christmas presents, she had toys so sharp and cold that it would cut her when she would play.
right, sliced through her fingers, she said. Pretty brutal stuff.
Yeah.
And then she said, then the girl grew up and got married. She found her prince. But the shadow girl, got married to this man named Abraham, and it didn't matter if she loved him or chose him because Abraham was tethered to
Her prince.
to Gabe.
Yeah.
So then she says, then she had a daughter. And then she basically said that the daughter came out smiling and she was a monster. And then he goes to the Umbre, and she names her Umbre, and you can see Umbre, and she's smiling the entire time. She was very spooky.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, the acting in this movie was A1.
Yes,
there was not one
really
single
good.
weak link at all in any of the main characters. They were all
I think that
amazing
you're right.
actors.
Yeah.
And especially considering they had to play two roles,
I know,
believably.
yeah.
And they were a complete opposite. So the Zora, who's the daughter, is kind of has an attitude all the time and whatever, but Ombre is she smiles at everything. Now, what's interesting about her name, Ombre actually basically means the darkest part of a shadow. So Zora's name means dawn, and Ombre's name means the darkest part of a shadow.
And
so
when Red first started talking, she talked about her being like a shadow.
yes.
And so this is like the worst of all the shadows.
Yes. And Ombre, she was another extremely spooky character.
Yes.
So here in astronomy, this is what Ombre means: the complete or perfect shadow of an opaque body as a planet where the direct light from the source of illumination is completely cut off. So she's being juxtaposed with Zora, whose name means dawn. Then she talks about the birth of the boy. She says she had a little boy, but something happened and she had to be cut out of her stomach. So Jason, we find out, is a C-section baby.
Right.
And we knew that Jason was a little weird. He was a little off. And he was born via C-section. Well, the boy on the doppelganger side was also born via C-section, but she had to do it herself.
Yeah.
And he had an obsession with fire, so she called him Pluto. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is that the Pluto, the doppelganger version of Jason, basically crawls around on all fours for most of the movie. As a matter of fact, he when he goes to see his mother, she's basically petting him. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what's interesting is that...
And he sounds like he's purring.
Right. So then, Gabriel means God is my judge. Mm-hmm. Which is interesting considering Jeremiah 11 and then considering what type of character this guy becomes.
Yeah.
The doppelganger's name is Abraham. Abraham means father of many nations. So this guy, I'm going to say, represents the African, African, we're all descended from, especially African Americans.
Which one? The Abraham?
Abraham. His name is Abraham. It means father of many nations, mm-hmm. right? It's a biblical name. So, father of many nations is being juxtaposed with God is my judge, mm-hmm. which is very, very interesting. Because most of the time, the doppelganger, we automatically assume the doppelganger family is bad, mm-hmm. and the other family is good.
Yeah.
But there's kind of clues throughout where it's like, okay, one guy is getting judged by God, the other one's a father of many nations. So who's really the bad guy here? And then there's this conversation, and then finally she clicks her hands again, and Abraham takes Gabriel. Now, Gabriel, again, is completely clueless. Even after he hears this narration about this horrible life of the shadow people, he's like, hey, I've got money, I've got this. And then the wife says, Gabe, basically, shut up.
Yeah.
And then he says, well, I've got a boat, I've got this. And then the daughter looks at him and says, Dad, nobody wants to hear about your... Well, he keeps talking, so finally the Abraham character goes, Rah!
Yeah.
It's then that we realize that none of these tethered people can really speak, except for one. So he goes, Rah! And then Red, the doppelganger for Adelaide, basically kind of flicks her wrist, and Abe takes him and basically drags him away with one hand.
Yeah.
Adelaide, by the way, basically means queen or nobility.
Oh. Which,
of course, in Black conscious community, the Black Queen, mm-hmm. the Queen Mother, that type of thing. So he drags her. So Abraham gets dragged away, mm-hmm. and as he's being dragged down the steps, the guy's got the scissors because all these guys they were in one glove and they're packing scissors.
Yep.
That's their weapon of choice. Now, the one glove is significant. You're not going to know this, but Michael Jackson, he used to wear one glove.
Okay.
Michael Jackson's an interesting character. Here's an excursus. Michael Jackson is interesting, but he does feature in the movie. Michael Jackson is a guy who started out black, mm-hmm. and then as he got more famous, got lighter and lighter.
Right.
Right, and to the point where when he died, he was lighter than you.
Right.
Now, of course, the reason...
I thought he had some disease.
Well, he had vitiligo. He was diagnosed with vitiligo. And so what that does is I actually have a cousin that has vitiligo. It creates these patches in your skin, so parts of it are dark and parts of it are white. Yeah. And so his solution was to just bleach his entire skin.
How can you do that? I don't understand how someone
there's skin bleach there or whatever. But, basically, black folks have never forgiven Michael Jackson for that. And the other side of that is the vitiligo thing makes sense, but... He did his hair. He used to have an afro. He permed his hair. He used to have a regular black African nose. He switched that. So none of us in the black community were really co-signing the vitiligo excuse for why he bleached his skin.
Right.
He talked about hating his nose and things like that. These are all, African Americans not being able to accept their African heritage and trying to cut off their African heritage. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so now Abraham has got these scissors and you're like, okay, he's done. But instead of stabbing him, he punches him in the face and knocks him out. And then the next thing we see him, he's on a boat.
I wonder why he did that.
Well, that is actually very significant. So long story short, these guys they're all running from each other. Mm-hmm. Red looks at Zora and says, "Run."
Yes.
She says, "Little girl, run."
Yep.
So Zora starts running, and then Umbre starts chasing her. Then the boys are. She sends the boys off to play, Pluto and Jason. Mm-hmm. They're playing in the closet, and it's there.
She sent them off to play.
Well, yeah, she said go play.
Yeah, but what's... You know, like when you tell somebody psychotic go play, it doesn't mean that they're going to go play Monopoly. Is they're going to do something crazy.
They were holding hands. They were holding hands, and they were walking. And so he starts showing them this lighter thing. Well, it turns out that Pluto has matches, and so he starts lighting it. And Jason figures out that whatever he does, Pluto does. Uh-huh. So everybody's basically in war with their own doppelganger. Mm-hmm. So the girl is running away from Umbre. It turns out that Gabe eventually is able to kill his doppelganger, Abraham. He's able to kill him in the boat. The scene's cut off to the White family. So the White family basically lives across the street. Mm-hmm. And the woman, the white woman, says to her husband, "Hey, I heard something outside. Can you go check on it?" And he's like drinking he's like, "No, I'm good. Let's just chill out." He didn't want to move. So she's like, "Ophelia, turn on the lights." Ophelia basically functions like a Siri type thing. You know those home help things? Oh, yeah. Amazon has one. The name escapes me right now. That's one of those home things. So she turns on Alexa, correct. So then she says to Ophelia, turn on the light. So Ophelia turns on the light. And then, he looks out and he goes, "No, there's nobody out here." He goes, "Actually, no, there is somebody." She goes, "Who is it?" He's like, "OJ." That is significant for obvious reasons. Right. So then he says, "Ophelia, play the Beach Boys." So Ophelia starts playing the Beach Boys. Well, we look up. And so then the two twin girls come out and they say, "Hey, what's going on?" And they're like, "Oh, nothing." And then you look up and then there they are in the red jumpsuits, the doppelgangers of the White family. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I mentioned this, but all the doppelgangers wear red jumpsuits, like prison uniforms. Right. And then you look up and you see the doppelganger twins and they immediately stab the girls, kill them.
They're over. Yeah.
Then to the right, you see the dad doppelganger coming and stabbing the husband. He's dead. Then the doppelganger version of the wife comes and stabs her. Well, she doesn't die instantly. Right. She starts crawling. That's like your least favorite scene in the movie, right? That part. Mm-mm. She starts crawling, and she says, "Ophelia, call the police." Right. Ophelia says, "Yes, playing Fuck the Police by NWA. So it's Fuck the Police, got it hard because I'm brown." And he's talking about like a bloodbath in LA of cops and all the rest of it. Well, that was very, very interesting because the point of that is that Ophelia has a mind of her own. Yeah. And, this is another thing that you'll only exclusively hear on Middle America. Ophelia is a very interesting name because Ophelia's name means what? Help. Help. So if you think about this, let me read this. This is actually from Urban Dictionary. An intimidating soul associated with Hamlet who commits suicide driving a route. Ophelias are usually evil spirits taking the form of an object or picture in the real world or electronically. So this is very interesting. Ophelia is a name that means help. And many times it's used to speak of a demonic spirit that can be an electronic demonic spirit. Mm-hmm. Well, think about this. One of the terms for black laborers after slavery, all we could get was house duties. Yeah. And house cleaners. As a matter of fact, there's a movie called The Help, which focuses on black women in those situations. So think this through. Ophelia is basically a housemaid. Mm-hmm. Turn on the lights, Ophelia. Play this, play that. So she says, "Ophelia, call the police." Ophelia says, "Fuck the police. I'm not calling the police." That tells me that Ophelia is representative of the help. Yeah. Because her name means help, and she's serving a white family. And when the chips are down and she can rescue the white family, instead of calling the police, because she said it clearly, call the police. Yeah. She didn't say fuck the police. No. But Ophelia is basically saying, fuck the police. They're not coming here to save you.
Right.
And of course, the commentary was obvious, right? Because when the black family needed the police, it was like, oh, it's 14 minutes away. But when the white family needed the police, Ophelia, the help, wouldn't even allow that to happen.
Do you think that there's any significance between the husband? Because remember how the husband's standing there, like the doppelganger version of the husband is standing there, and like she reaches for his sandal, and then that's when she says, please stop. And then he reaches out his hand like he's gonna help her.
Right.
And then when she reaches up, he like goes like this. So
Right.
it looks like he's gonna help, but
Right.
then it's just a trick.
Right.
And the same thing,
Then
that
she-
thing is called help.
Right.
And then when she calls out
You
for
got
help,
it.
it plays fuck the police. So it
Right.
looks like both of them are doing the same.
You're not getting any help.
Neither one of them.
Now, what I missed, which was the most significant line in the movie, was when Red is telling the story of the shadow people and all this and everything she went through, Gabe asks, who are you people? And in the most important moment in the movie, she smiles at him and says, we're Americans.
Yes.
Which is huge because it has huge implications. One is that these people are the others. They're not like us. They're gonna kill us. Yada yada yada. But the message is actually we're just like you. The name of the movie is Us, which obviously is us because that's what Jason said when he saw the doppelgangers in the room for the first
They're
time.
us.
He said they're us.
Right. Yeah.
Right? And so us,
Yep.
as other people have caught, I didn't catch this one, us would also stand for U.S., as in
Right.
United States. So she's saying, we're Americans. So my theory on the Funhouse, because there's the Funhouse and then there's the Underground, my theory on the Funhouse is the Underground part of the Funhouse represents America. Okay? And black people's experience in America living in the underground, right? And so we'll talk about that in a second. So we're at the White House. She goes in. So the black family makes it to the White House because they're going for help. They knock on the door and then they see the doppelganger version of the man. And Lupita has what do they call that thing that stokes
It's like
a
the
fireplace?
poker that you use in a fire pit.
So she hits him over the head and buries it into the guy's forehead. He doesn't feel anything, and he just grabs her,
Nothing.
as well as the teens. They
Yeah.
grab her into the house.
Right.
Now, the man, Gabriel, just stands there.
Yeah.
He doesn't rush the door. He
No.
stands there. The kids rush the door, like, Mom. But Gabriel stands there. Right.
After.
So then the doppelganger guy starts coming after Gabriel, and Gabriel, again, he's still hurt. He's still limp.
He's using the bat as a
And he's
cane.
limping away.
Yeah.
Well, Lupita and the kids are now in the house, and the daughters, Zora makes quick work of the twins. She bashes one of their heads in. The other one gets thrown off the steps, presumably breaks her neck. And now we're in the room with Lupita and the doppelganger version of the white lady. Very interesting moment of the scene. She's handcuffed because Lupita's still handcuffed because she was told to tether herself to the table by Red, right? So throughout the movie, she's wearing handcuffs the entire time. So the woman, the white doppelganger, has scissors, and she puts the scissors right to her face. But
Yeah, it was so
it
bizarre.
seemed that she wanted to kill her, but she couldn't. There was something like holding her back from killing her, which was very strange because when they went into the house of the white family, they eliminated them immediately. There was no discussion. There was nothing.
Yeah.
They got killed immediately. But when she had Lupita dead to rights, she didn't kill her.
Nope.
She had the knife and her hands were shaking. Then she goes back to the mirror and cuts the side of her face. Well, remember earlier, the real version of that white lady said, hey, she had that plastic surgery on her face. Well, Gabe ends up killing the white doppelganger husband. They all meet in the living room. And now they're all in the living room. They turn on the news and they see that this is a nationwide thing. It's not just their
The
house
Jason
going
boy
through this.
kills that mother.
Right. The
The
Jason
white
boy
mother.
kills the white mother. And so they're in there and now they're deciding, what are we going to do? Well, Gabe, of course, wants to stay. He's like, let's just stay here. We're good. And Lupita says, no, we have to go. We got to keep moving. We got to keep moving. Like, maybe we can go to Mexico. We got to keep moving, which is interesting, right? Because Mexican people want to come to America for safety. She wants to leave America to go to Mexico for safety, which obviously has implications considering her current milieu.
I couldn't even think of that.
So the guy says, no, it's final. We're staying here. And she looks at him and says, you can't make decisions anymore.
She says it's strong.
Yep.
You can't make decisions
right
anymore.
in front of the kids. So the kids look at the dad and say, so do we get to drive their car? Because the kids know that if Lupita says it, that's it. They have no respect for the dad.
Yeah.
And it's at this point we got to do a breakdown of Gabriel. Gabriel is the typical uppity, upper class black guy, went to the historically black college, so he should be about it. He should be about our people, whatever, but he's completely and totally worthless in this movie.
Yeah.
Just like the dad at the beginning who couldn't even watch his daughter, this is Jordan Peele slamming these woke, you went to Howard and all these other, historically black universities, all the rest of it, but you can't do a thing for black people. You can't do anything at all, and you're completely and totally useless. And he represents the emasculated black male who cannot lead his family. And so when Lupita says, you do not get to make decisions, because of his cowardice throughout the entire movie, now when it's time to call a play, she doesn't want to hear from him.
Yep.
Which is what happens in the black community. There's a lot of, the sisters are, they're aggressive, they don't know how to submit to a man, yada, 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 yada. And of course the counter argument is, why would they submit to you when you're not being a man and you're not protecting or providing, which is what men need to do. Which, of course, if you want to get really deep with it, goes back to the slavery days where the woman was getting raped by massa and the husband could do nothing about it. Well, that's not true because Nat Turner did something about it. But in the main, the men didn't do anything about it. So they were completely emasculated in front of their women.
Oh, gosh.
And so because of that, there's that lack of respect because it's like, you let me get raped, you didn't do anything about it, and then you're not doing anything about it. So there's this disconnect between black men and black women, and that is articulated clear, but Jordan Peele is taking a side.
Yeah.
He's taking the side of black women saying, well, no, we're not. Why? Why should they respect you? You're not sacrificial, you're not a protector. There's no reason to respect you. So he's taking a side here. He's saying, you Coonan, Howard University, HBCU going person, you won't take any risks or sacrifices for black people. And in my mind, that's Obama, right? Like Obama did nothing for black folk. I just saw another update where Donald Trump has just declared Martin Luther King's birth home like a national park or something like that. And then Donald Trump reversed the 3 strike stuff that happened during the Clinton administration, where black folk were getting mass incarceration.
Yeah.
Almost,
He did reverse that?
Yeah, he reversed it.
Oh, I knew that was the worst.
So he did that in his first term, but Obama had 8 terms, couldn't do anything for us.
Yeah.
Obama has done nothing for black folks, but he's that educated brother. Educated and all, and you kind of hear the way that he talked. He didn't really have a black, stereotypical black voice. Yeah. The Gabriel did. He was just kind of. Yeah. But that's where the Michael Jackson theme comes in, right? Is the black guy, and then when you get successful, you anglicize yourself. Oh. So you cut yourself off from your community because now you want to be accepted by, the white community, which is exactly what happened with OJ, right? OJ was saying he didn't like to live around niggers. He said that. That's why he went to Brentwood. So this idea of black folk, once they get a piece of success, they completely abandon their community. Wow. So that is Gabe. That is what Gabe symbolizes. So they all get into the car, and of course the daughter is in the driver's seat, the black daughter, Zora. And so this is a significant part of the movie, though, because Lupita's like, let me in the car, let me drive. And she goes, nope, you're injured, you're hurt, I'm going to drive. And then there's this big argument. She says, I have the biggest kill count because I killed the twins.
Yeah.
And she's...
Well, prior to that, did you notice the dad said, I told her no, but...
Right. He said, I told her no, but he's completely worthless. He just got emasculated in front of them, so...
She just went in and had to deal with killing another one that attacked her while she's in cuffs.
Right.
And then...
Right, and then the boy, Jason, comes in and sees his mom doing this killing. Yeah. Right? So the black guy is just a complete... He just gave...
I was like, she's getting all this accomplished, and he can't even get the teenager out the front seat.
Complete disaster.
Which clearly she shouldn't have been the driver.
She has no respect for him.
Right.
So Zora's behind the wheel, and sure enough, what do we see? We see Umbre right in front of her.
Yeah.
So Lupita gets in the car, and Zora takes the initiative, hits drive, and basically rams her with the car. She jumps on the roof, and then she smashes the brakes, and the girl goes flying. Basically, her body snaps in half, and she's starting to die.
Yeah.
Lupita gets out of the car and is looking at her, and she's about to finish her off, but then you can tell there's compassion, and their eyes lock until she dies.
Yeah.
And so Lupita gets back in the car. One of the major themes of this movie was black-on-black violence. Because the reason I'm saying that is because when they were arguing about who had the biggest kill count, Gabriel says something really interesting. He says, well, technically I have the most kills because I killed the doppelganger white guy, and then he says, and I killed myself. I don't know if you caught that, but he says, and I killed myself.
Yeah.
And he's talking about
his doppelganger.
So that says something. It says to kill your doppelganger is to kill yourself. That's the point. And that's the reason why I believe the black doppelganger family didn't immediately go and kill the Wilsons.
Yeah.
The black doppelganger family did not immediately kill the Wilsons. Even when he had the knife at him, he punched him, he wouldn't kill him.
Right.
And so, but when the white family was there, they got killed immediately, no questions asked, no nothing. So I think that's a commentary from Jordan Peele about black on black crime, which is whatever happened in this rebellion, there was some rule or something that went out that said you can't kill black people. And the reason I'm saying that is because one is that the doppelganger family had them all dead to rights and didn't kill them. And two, when the white family showed up, they got killed immediately. Three, when the white woman had the scissors at the neck of Lupita, she couldn't do it even though it looked like she wanted to. So whoever was leading this rebellion, and we'll find out in a second, in my mind, gave an order, no, don't kill any black people. And if you look throughout the movie, all the dead bodies that were victims of the doppelgangers, all of them were white. You do not see a dead human, a dead above ground black human throughout the entire movie. So I think Peele is looking at, basically he's making a statement that for black people to kill another black person is tantamount to killing yourself. We're hurting ourselves with all this black on black crime.
Yeah. Rest
in peace, Nipsey Hussle. Right? So that's kind of a commentary on black crime. Now, there's a disciple, a student of Louis Farrakhan, and he was on Vlad TV, and he was talking about how there was this Muslim dude. He's a black Muslim dude. His name is Napoleon. And Napoleon saw his parents get murdered right in front, his mother actually get murdered right in front of his eyes. And so he's telling this story about how they found the dudes that killed his parents in jail.
Oh.
So they called him up. They're like, yo, we got this dude dead to rights. Just say the word, we'll kill him. And he says, no, I'm a Muslim now, and that guy's a Muslim now, so we're going to have to turn the other cheek. So then Vlad plays this video for the disciple of Louis Farrakhan. And he said something very interesting, because Vlad said, what do you think about that, turning the other cheek and all that, because these are Muslims? And he said something very interesting. What he said was, with black people, we should turn the other cheek. With white people, we should do eye for an eye. That was a very, very interesting mindset. Well, if you look at the movie, the white folks are getting killed left and right, but the doppelganger family tried very hard not to kill any black people.
Yeah.
So the underground people have sort of this vendetta and this vengeance against the above ground people, but they won't kill them. They won't actively kill them. So what are you thinking? Is that
why he was bringing him out in the boat in the bag? You think he was just going to throw him in?
He was trying to take him somewhere. We don't know where he was trying to take him. He was trying to transport him, but he wasn't trying to kill him. The only time you saw the Abraham try to kill Gabe was when he was about to die. So it was like a very, very extreme circumstance where he finally decided. He finally decided, okay, I'm gonna. So that's the message of, hey, this black on black crime stuff is not helping. We don't need to be killing each other, of course. And then you look at what Farrakhan said, and it basically operates that way. They're trying their best not to kill black people, they're killing white people. So they escape from the house, and as they're driving up to back to their house, they see their family car is on fire. And Jason's in the back clicking. And he realizes that the boy is there. So the boy is there. And
but right before they get to that fire, he flicks it, and that's the first time that it lights up.
Right.
And then all of a sudden he gets a weird look on his face, and he starts looking around.
Correct. Now there's a theory that Jason is also one of the tethered people. That when
somehow he
got switched. And the reason people are saying that is because he was so weird. He was always talking about tunnels and all the rest of it. So there's a giant theory going on. He was
saying he knew last year how to do this trick, and then all of a sudden he doesn't know how to do it anymore.
Right.
He gets locked in the closet at the beginning, and then the mom's like, "This is why you can't play in this closet." She's like, the sister's laughing, saying, "Didn't this exact thing happen to him last year?
Right.
Like he didn't remember it happening, or what?"
Right. So everybody's speculating, oh, he must be one of the tethered people. What people are not looking at, and I believe that, I was like, oh, he's got to be one of them because he was acting so weird. What people don't realize, though, is that both Zora and Jason are half human, half tethered, because that's Adelaide's their mother. Now, I'm going to give away a spoiler. Fast forward to the end of the movie. It goes back to that scene where they're looking in the mirror.
Yeah.
But what it does is it shows us what happened after. What happened after was the doppelganger girl chokes
Adelaide.
Adelaide passes out. She drags her into the underground world, takes her Michael Jackson shirt, and switches places with her.
And then handcuffs her to the bed.
Correct. So the entire movie is the woman that you think is Adelaide is really a tethered person from underground, and the tethered person from underground is really Adelaide trying to reclaim her place.
So when the mom was saying, "I want my daughter back," she was more right than she realized, because it literally wasn't her daughter.
Correct. And so, and that explains why the red character was the only one out of all of them that could speak.
Right.
And the reason for that is because she wasn't born down there; she was born in the upper world.
Right.
And of course, the movie goes on and says that basically there are a bunch of mad scientists who tried to create an identical race of people in that underground world to control them like puppets. But what ended up happening was they were able to have a body, replicate the body exactly, but they couldn't replicate the soul. And so because of that, they became the puppets. So the people above ground were, everything that they would do was mimicked by the people underground.
Right.
And so that's why I said that the underground world symbolizes America, because what they're trying to say is that there are two Americas. There's the America initially with people underground, black people suffering, and there are also white people suffering in underground America because of class issues, right? And then there's another America, which is the above ground, where they get to live and be happy and basically function impervious to the suffering of the people down there. And so the people down there are like, okay, well, we're gonna make ourselves be heard. Sort of the class warfare and racial warfare that happens, right? So now, so we know that Adelaide's not really Adelaide. She's a tethered person. But she was able to basically steal the life of the real Adelaide.
That's exactly what she did.
Well, that means that Jason is half
Yeah.
and half.
Right.
And so that to me solves the mystery of the mask, because the mask is him basically going into that mind state. It's him basically being okay, I'm going to act like an animal, like a dog, because remember, his double is Pluto. And that's also the reason why he knew it was a trap. He said, it's a trap, get out.
Yeah.
When they were in the car. The reason he knew it was a trap is because he kind of shares their mind.
Yeah.
They have the same mind.
Yeah.
Because he's half and half. So a lot of people are theorizing, oh, he got switched. We don't need to have him switched. The reason that he's weird is because he's half of a tethered person. So that's why he's not a very good speaker, but it's also why he knew what Pluto was planning, was because they share the same soul, basically. So one of the things that's interesting about the tethered people is they're extremely athletic.
Yeah.
When a
they
girl
are.
got knocked down, she sprung back up. They're both
yeah.
countries. And it just so happens that the daughter Zora is an amazing athlete. Remember, she was a runner.
Yeah, but the son's not.
So Zora inherited the athleticism, and Jason inherited the awkward speech pattern stuff,
Yeah.
right? So Jason realizes it's a trap. Pluto's out there, and basically there's fire and there's gasoline leading up to the car because they were trying to detonate the car. And Jason walks backwards.
Yes.
And because he walked backwards, so did Pluto, but Pluto walked right into the fire. And so he died. But
And Adelaide has a problem with that.
Adelaide goes to rush him and say, no,
Yeah.
stay where you are, stay where you are, stay where you are. She doesn't want him backed up. So this is, again, the second time where Adelaide realizes that these are people from underground just trying to make their way.
Yeah.
So she has compassion for all the tethered people.
Right.
And again, I think that symbolizes the truly, I'm going to say the truly woke black person who's been successful, who's been able to live upper middle class, been able to have all that joy and all the rest of it, but also knows there's a whole group of their people still suffering in the underground style. So she is trying to find a way to bridge the gap and make that amends. So she's trying, like, man, to rescue Pluto. Because she's got compassion for him, because she knew where he was, but she made it out. And so she's got this guilt because in order for her to make it out, she had to sell out and betray herself. And then on top of that, she had to abandon her people down there and didn't do anything to help. Because when Red confronts her for doing it, she basically said, why didn't you take me with you? You didn't take you could have took me with you.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about the black community, is that when one of us is going up, we don't want to help other people go up to where we are. We'd rather, push them down or whatever. And so that was kind of like the message, which is, if we don't help each other up, we're going to end up killing each other. That's the idea. So, and it goes to the last scene. The Red kidnaps Jason and basically hides him downstairs. And then there's that final confrontation. And then there it is. The I've Got 5 on It song comes on again while they're fighting. But right before they start fighting, Red starts talking about how once she started dancing, she found her freedom, and she said, I found my faith.
Oh.
And what's interesting is that she said, I knew at the beginning of the movie, she said, I knew I was being tested by God.
Yeah.
She then said, God brought us together to Adelaide. And then she says, she found her faith when she started dancing. Because what happened was, her above ground now, Adelaide, the stolen Adelaide, gets enrolled in dance class, basically. And so she starts dancing, and obviously when she started dancing, everything that the above ground person does, the below person does as well. Which again talks about that type of influence, which is the people at the bottom try to copy everything that the people at the top do, even though they'll never get out of that social strata.
Right.
So,
but when she dances down underground, then all the doppelgangers start touching her to they're she thinking of her as a savior that she's going to be able to.
She becomes a Messiah figure, a Rosa Parks type figure.
Yeah.
And she basically said, this is where I found my faith.
Yeah, and that's where she started making a plan.
Right. So then she basically became the leader. That's why I said whoever orchestrated the revolt says we're not killing any black people. And it turns out it was the true Adelaide. She said she organized the entire rebellion. And she said, I can't just kill you, I have to make a statement. Because the fake Adelaide, she had a real blood feud with. She had some vengeance. So she's saying, I want to kill you, but I can't just kill you, I have to make a statement.
Yeah.
So they're fighting, they start fighting, and the fake Adelaide actually kills the real one, the underground one. And then she hears Jason, she takes Jason out of the locker, and then they hightail it out of Dodge.
Yeah, but that whole interaction is very strange.
How so?
Because he looks like he's afraid of her, and she has to get him out, and then she's telling him like it's okay,
right,
and that they're gonna be able to have life as regular again.
Right, everything's going back to normal.
Yeah.
But he's looking at her very strangely.
He is. And when she pulls him in to hug him, he keeps his arms out. He doesn't hug her back.
He doesn't reciprocate. What's interesting is right before the White family died, remember when the twins came out of the room?
Yeah.
They said, nah, everything's all good. And the twins said, just because we're not in the room doesn't mean we can't hear you.
Right.
Well, apply that same principle to Jason. Because Adelaide and Red underground were having a conversation. They were talking about everything. And it was clear that they knew each other. They had some previous experience. So Jason's hearing all of that. He heard the entire dialogue.
Oh my gosh.
Just because he wasn't in the room doesn't mean he can't hear. See?
Oh my gosh.
So when she goes to rescue Jason, he's looking at her sideways like, whatever. So he gets in the car and they're driving away, and it's then that we get the revelation that she was switched. She looks back at Jason. Jason's looking at her with this strange kind of skeptical look, and then he pulls down the mask.
Well, she just looks at him at first like she's like nervous a little bit.
Yeah.
And then she just gives this smile, and then she looks forward, and then that's when he pulls the mask.
Yeah.
Whole interaction was weird.
He pulls the mask down, and I take that to mean he's embracing the fact that he's a half-tethered person, because he, every time, and when he put on that mask, the first time he put on that mask was when he went to do the killing.
It was?
Yeah. Yes. Well, not the first time. What I'm saying is there are key points in the movie where he puts on the mask. One of them was when he went to do the killing, and of course in the book not Grapes of Wrath. What's the other one with the kids? They got stuck on Lord of the Flies.
Lord of the Flies. Yeah.
In Lord of the Flies, when the kids are about to do the killing, they put on a mask. So it's probably an ode to Lord of the Flies, but it's also an ode to the fact that Jason was always half and half. And he puts it on, and sometimes he takes it off. Sometimes he puts it on, sometimes he takes it off. And I think that symbolizes a lot of African Americans basically trying to keep connection with their past, or with the fact that they belong to the underground group of people, and also at the same time functioning in the above ground world.
Yeah.
Right, which is, that juxtaposes him to his dad. His dad wants nothing to do with the underground world. He wants nothing to do with his people, nothing at all. He's got his Howard thing, he's good, and he's got his white friends, he's good. But the kid is trying to kind of keep some connection between his underground self and his above ground self. Because in my opinion, the mask is a dog's mask, and Pluto acts like a dog. So him wearing the mask is him connecting with his underground self. And taking off the mask is him connecting to his above ground self. Because as a black person, you're always split between those. Hence, I'm wearing the motherland pendant there, so I'm more like a Jason thing. And a lot of black folk who work among white people know to do this. There's sometimes when they'll be real hood and real street, but when they're at work or whatever, they're engaged in white folks just like an above ground person.
Yeah.
The movie ends with this whole line of hands. All the underground people escape from the underground, and they're all holding hands, and there's like thousands of them. But then you see helicopters and plumes of smoke. Because long story short, they're all going to die, basically.
Oh, yeah.
They're just going to get liquidated. And so that's how the movie ends. So it was an extreme... I liked it better than Get Out. Now, I believe that this movie is obviously in the Get Out universe. There are some nods to Get Out. You know, he's eating Fruit Loops, and that was a very important scene in Get Out. And then he literally says, "It's a trap. Get out."
Yeah.
Which we might be reading into it. But, so...
I don't think so, because it was a trap in Get Out.
Yeah. No, I agree.
No, I don't think we're reading into that.
I agree. So some of the symbolism here. So one of them is the lack of a voice, because when she got choked, when the doppelganger choked her, it basically crushed her voice box, and so she was able to speak, but not able to speak clearly.
Right.
And so I think that talks about the voicelessness of African Americans throughout history, as well as the voicelessness of underground white folk who get relegated and treated very similar, right? Because they're of a lower class. Not having a voice is huge throughout the movie, and not being able to speak and articulate yourself is huge.
You know how before she goes in, she's free, and then when she goes in, and then she gets her voice box crushed, and then she gets basically chained downstairs in the basement. Right. So there's the whole... I'm not sure if I completely understand where you're going with all of your thoughts on it, but like there was a time where black people were free and they had a voice, and then all of a sudden, once they got brought into that underworld, you know what I mean? Right. They had no voice anymore. Right. She had no voice anymore, and she was chained. But
what was interesting was all the chaining that it gets done is black people to black people. So when Adelaide, when the young Adelaide switched her out, she handcuffed her to a bed. Right. She couldn't, And then when she got out, she handcuffed Adelaide to the table. And then when they have the last confrontation, Adelaide actually breaks her neck with the handcuffs. And so it's at that point where you see, like, okay, a lot of the pain that black people feel is self-inflicted. And I think that that's a very important concept to acknowledge, is this is self-inflicted pain here. This is, if you get put underground and all the rest of it, it's a terrible situation to be in. But they didn't get it. They weren't even trying to give the doppelgangers a chance to explain who they were, what their intentions were, etc. They just immediately decided they had to die. They had to kill him, even though they had him dead to rights. They didn't do it. But it's kind of like that when you're black and you've made it, and then there's these other ghetto black folks who don't have good grammar, can't speak well, you don't want anything to do with them. You know what I mean? So I think one of the themes of the movie is this concept of how the two Americas can reconcile itself. But then within that is how black people can reconcile themselves to each other. And there's got to be, there's that resentment for, if you're an underground person living in the underground, there's that big resentment for the well-to-do black person who forgot where they came from, forgot you. On the other hand, there is that fear that the above ground, the accomplished Negro has with his own people. He's scared to death of you. And of course, it doesn't really matter if you're successful or not. Underground black people will kill successful black people. Oh, yeah. We just saw it with Nipsey Hussle. Yeah. Oh, right, so terrible. As soon as we find a black person that's successful, you go on and kill them. It's pretty crazy. But, I heard a lot of people talk about how she, the underground red is a metaphor for Rosa Parks, right? Because of the whole slavery revolt. Yeah. I think she's more Knapp Turner than Rosa Parks. Ugh, so Nat, and she said she was tested by God. God brought us.
Yeah.
She's very, very religious. Jeremiah 11:11, which I'm assuming she actually came up with. So the Jeremiah 11:11 verse, I think that was hers, and she was making it a rallying cry to the rest of the people down there, because she talked about how she was the one that fomented the revolution and everybody was following her, and she had to plan everything to the strictest detail. So this whole Jeremiah 11:11 thing is placed throughout the movie, and I think that she was the one that originated that. Although that doesn't work. Well, go ahead. What were you going to say?
How could that be if she saw it on that sign before she went down there?
No, she. Okay, yeah. No, you're right. You're right. Well, hold on. Let me think. No, you're right. It's true. She saw it on the sign before.
Yeah.
But what I think happened is she saw that random guy with that sign, Jeremiah 11:11, because the guy's a street preacher. But that's the last thing that stuck in her head before she ended up getting switched underground. So I think she got the idea from that guy, but she was the one really pushing the 11:11 agenda.
Yeah.
So Knapp Turner is an interesting character because he was a slave who learned the Bible, and then because that's what they would do, they would have the black preacher who would then quote Ephesians 5, slaves be obedient to your masters. But what happened was, and in the movie, I don't know what triggered Nat Turner, but Nat Turner basically said he got a vision from God that that God was going to use him to do something. Well, what he ended up doing was organizing a slave revolt and killing a bunch of people, children included. So when she says, I found my faith and I knew that God was testing me and things like that, those were all basically things that Nat Turner was saying.
Oh, really?
And then he organized a slave revolt. Oh. Because if it was just Harriet Tubman, there would be no need for the violent action.
Oh, no, I agree.
So Harriet...
I agree. I think that...
So there's definitely Underground Railroad and all that, but I think she is actually more Nat Turner than Harriet Tubman.
Yeah.
Because it was explicitly, we're going to go up there and kill a bunch of white folk.
Right.
So, go ahead, what were you saying?
No, I agree with you, because they got out and they could have, just gone away, but instead they engaged them, which is more Nat Turner. She wasn't,
Right.
I agree.
Right. So, that's pretty much the long and the short of the movie, is that and then when you talk about voicelessness, where God says, I'm not going to hear you.
Right.
So what happens is the people down there didn't have a voice. And so when the vengeance comes in, it's as if the people above ground don't have a voice either, because if God can't hear you, then if you're talking and nobody can hear you, do you really have a voice? No. Right? So it's kind of one of those, okay, we're going to turn the tables on you guys. Now you guys aren't going to have a voice and God's not going to hear you because you... were horrible to us, right?
Yeah.
So that is the long and the short of it. I think the symbology here is crazy. The strength, this was definitely one of the best portrayals of black women I've ever seen. Is the Adelaide character is very strong, knows what to do, definitely the alpha female, very much a leader, willing to sacrifice herself, because she said at the initial invasion, she basically said, you just want me, right? Now, of course, and she says, let my children go. She doesn't say anything about the husband, because, she either doesn't have any respect for him or it's just, hey, we're two adults, they're going to kill us.
Don't hurt my children.
So she says, don't hurt my children. So and gosh, Lupita gave such a crazy performance.
She really did. I mean, she knocked it out of the park.
In both
characters.
Both characters
she
were on 10.
encompassed those,
She was
absolutely.
It was the strength of the black woman who overcame so much adversity.
Yeah.
Overcomes everything thrown at her. Sacrificial, doing it without a man, willing to take matters in their own hands, has to be stronger than the average woman because of all the issues that get thrown at her. And I thought they did a really, really,
and
really
a real
good job.
love for her kids, you know what I mean? To protect them, and it wasn't about herself or her safety. She didn't want to go to that thing, but Did he say something about, like, it was one of the kids' birthdays or something like that?
Well, it's been a year since Jason's grandmother had died.
Yeah, so he brought Jason into it and how it would be good for Jason.
Which means
so
that
she win.
Adelaide's mother is dead, basically. Yeah. That's the idea. Yeah. Because they were spending time together as family. So it was a very, very interesting take on black family dynamics. Mm-hmm. You know, it was an interesting take on black crime. Faith, it seems like faith is a bad thing in this movie until Red basically says, I found my faith and I knew what God wanted me to do, which was kill you people. Mm-hmm. But at the beginning, it was kind of like I was being tested by God. A lot of times, religion, particularly Christian religion, was used to lull black people to sleep and not try to gain their freedom. Mm-hmm. You know, and so it was like, oh yeah, God's testing us, blah blah blah. They used theology to squelch any revolutionary spirit. And so that was used, but there was a twist at the end where she basically has a Nat Turner, because Nat Turner basically said he had a vision that God wanted to kill all those people. That'd be his sort of vengeance, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So, it was a very, very brilliant movie, strong acting, really, 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 really good symbology throughout the movie. I liked it a lot better than Get Out, because there are a lot more, you know, subliminal themes and all the rest of it. And Jordan Peele has said that there's like 4 more movies coming out in this universe.
I thought there was 5 total, and there's already been 2, so then that means there's 3 more?
One of the I'm pretty sure, I don't know. One of the things that was really, really troubling about the movie was Lupita's expressions.
Oh gosh, she's so good with that.
I mean, look at this. I mean, it was legitimately a spooky movie.
Yeah.
Legitimately a very...
It was that smile, and she was like, I don't know, the way she did it was just really creepy.
Yeah, and initially it was, that funhouse was called like the Shaman Funhouse, and it had a Native American guy. But then when you go back in the updated version, in the 2019 version, it becomes Merlin's Forest of Shadows.
Yeah.
So you have the Native American shaman who gets replaced by the European shaman, which was what you call a wizard. Right? A wizard is basically a European version of a shaman. Mm-hmm. And so that symbolizes basically the takeover from Native American to European, which is why I said that House of Mirrors is really the United States. It's America. That's the whole thing. So, gosh, yeah, great movie. I loved it. What did you give the movie 1 to 10?
Oh, it was a 10 for me. It was really good.
Well, what do you give Get Out? Because you said you like Get Out better than this movie.
They're both 10s to me. I really liked both of them. But, like, Get Out was, like, relatable. Well, Get Out to me was, like, crazy because I trusted that white girl. I didn't think that she was like that.
Right.
So when she turned on him, that was, like, really, like, shocking. And, you know, because she stood up for him when they got pulled over and stuff like that. So I thought that she was one. And then, like, when she flipped on him, I don't know, that was crazy. So,
one of the ways
I loved them both.
There's this thing called the Red Alchemist Society, and the Red Alchemist Society is the group in Get Out who was purchasing all the bodies.
Right.
And if you notice, all the people down in the underworld were wearing red, you know, the red jumpsuits. And then if you look at that party and Get Out in the Red Alchemist Society, everybody was wearing something red. The reason, and the only reason we know about the Red Alchemist Society is because Jordan Peele said so in an interview. He said, so he says he's got this whole lore of that universe about the Red Alchemist Society, that they were descendants from the Knights Templars, which is again Christianity, right? I think in his following movies, he's going to talk about how Christianity has been used to keep black people in check, and how white folks use Christianity and all the rest of it. So just a crazy movie. I give it a 10. I loved it. I give Get Out a 9.5. But this is a 10 because there's just more commentary, and he's very, very purposeful about portraying black men, and it's a cautionary tale about what type of black men not to be. Because even when at the beginning, at the opening scene where the woman is yelling at the guy because how could you turn your back on our daughter, he says, it's not my fault, it's not my fault, it's not my fault. And so it's like the absentee or immature black father who won't take any accountability for what's happening to their kids, particularly little black girls.
Yeah.
Nowhere to be found, generally speaking. So it was crazy commentary. Everybody got blasted in this movie except for, black women, basically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, everybody else got blasted in this movie. It's definitely a pro black woman movie. So, which is interesting because Get Out was also a pro black woman movie, in the sense of you can't trust white girls.
Oh, yeah.
I think about it.
Yeah.
That was the commentary, was you can't trust white girls.
That's true. Yeah.
Right? Whereas the commentary here is look how strong black women are. So
You didn't listen.
I should have.
You're terrible.
So I'm just amazingly impressed. I mean, we're talking about, he wrote, produced, and directed this film. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of crazy. All right. Well, do you have anything else to say?
No.
Awesome movie. I loved it. Go watch it. Let us know what you think about the commentary. We put this on the Middle America channel because it is obviously pertinent to what's going on, in the United States right now. So, definitely a great movie. Love your neighbor.
Take care of each other.
Middle America.
We are the media.
Till next time, guys.